is wrong
about
with
the
you? You want to
Ibom
seize
Air
my phone?
incident.
Madam,
A passenger flying
you are
within
not supposed to be
Nigeria
using
is
your phone.
instructed to turn off her phone
Turn your
on
phone off, ma'am.
touchdown. She
Why?
refuses,
Don't touch my
opting
phone.
to
You have
put her
no
phone
rights.
on silent instead. However, a flight crew
Let me off this
snatched
plane
her
right now.
phone, engaging the
Ma'am, you need to
passenger
remain
who
calm
becomes
and stay in your
provoked
seat.
and becomes unruly. As a result of the passenger's behavior, she was informed that she was detained and consequently would not be allowed to disembark from the aircraft until the authorities arrived. The passenger requested politely at first to be allowed egress, but she was blocked by a crew, and she became irate and started destroying the fitting of the aircraft. When the authorities arrived, she was beckoned to exit the aircraft, and she refused. The authorities applied force to her person by pulling her out of the aircraft. In the process, her clothes were torn by a flight crew, thereby exposing her breasts. She believes this was deliberate. Her provocation led her to slap and attempt to slap everyone attempting to arrest her. Here is my legal opinion on the matter. Using Nigerian legal framework, particularly Criminal Procedure Code, the Constitution, the Civil Aviation legislation, the offenses that have been committed and what rights that have been breached. The viral video posted above details a very complex scenario involving multiple legal issues under Nigerian law. I believe these are the breakdown of the potential offenses committed and rights breached based on the video and other internet resources. Offenses committed by the passenger: refusing to comply with a lawful order of a crew member. The legal basis for this is the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority regulations, specifically the Nigerian Civil Authority Regulation 17.53.1b. It states that a passenger shall not fail to comply with lawful command given to him by a pilot or by a crew member for the purpose of ensuring the safety of the aircraft or any person or property on board. Refusing to turn off the phone on touchdown is a valid and lawful instruction, and it constitutes a breach of these regulations. Unruly and disruptive behavior. The legal basis for this is Regulation 17.5.3.1d, which prohibits unruly and disruptive behavior that endangers the safety of the aircraft, persons, or property on board. The passengers becoming provoked and unruly falls under this. Willful damage of aircraft or fittings. Legal basis is Criminal Code Act, Section 451. This section states that with malicious injuries to property, the act of destroying the fitting of the aircraft is clearly a case of willfully and unlawfully damaging the property of Ibom Air. This is a felony punishable by imprisonment, although in her defense it could be argued that the undue provocation and continuous taunting by crew members baited her into provocation, which momentarily deprived her of her senses of her sense of reasoning. Therefore, she couldn't have willfully destroyed the aircraft. Number 2, assault on law enforcement officers. The legal basis for this is the Criminal Code Act, Section 356. This section makes it an offense to assault, resist, or willfully obstruct a police officer or other public officer in due execution of his duty. The passenger's action of slapping and attempting to slap officers attempting to arrest her constitutes assault on the authorities. Again, this can be the defense of provocation is available to her here. Now, here are her rights that I believe have been breached. Her right to personal dignity, the right to dignity of human person. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended. Section 34 guarantees the right to dignity of the human person and prohibits torture, inhumane, and degrading treatment. The act of flight crew tearing her clothes, exposing her breast, pulling her out of the aircraft, and scraping her on the pavement of the airport is a breach of her right, and it violates her personal right to dignity. Even if it wasn't deliberate, the use of excessive force leading to such outcome could be considered a violation of her personal dignity. Her right to freedom of movement, potentially. The legal basis, Constitution, Section 41. While the initial detention was likely to be lawful under the Civil Aviation Act and regulation authorizing crew member to restrain disruptive passenger, the continued detention after the arrival of authority needs to be scrutinized. The passenger had committed a number of offenses, agreed, but the use of force to remove her after she was already in custody and refusing to embark could be a gray area. However, given her continued unruly behavior and resistance to arrest, the authorities were likely acting within their power. The initial blocking of her egress by crew member was likely a lawful restraint due to her unruly behavior. Analysis of crew action. Snatching the phone. The act is a point of contention. While the passenger had a legal duty to comply, the crew member's action of snatching the phone could be argued as a form of assault. However, it would likely be viewed in the context of the passenger's non-compliance with safety-related instruction. The crew's action, while perhaps ill-advised, was likely aimed at enforcing a safety regulation. Tearing of clothing. The tearing of her clothing, whether deliberate or not, is a critical point. If it was deliberate, it constitutes a serious assault and a clear violation of her right to dignity. If it was an accident, result of the authorities applying force, it would be less severe issue, but could still be used to argue excessive force used during arrest. Posting the video containing her nudes or other private parts of a person amounts to cyberbullying under the Nigerian Cybercrime Act, and it is an offense punishable with imprisonment. The legal basis for this is Section 24 of the Act, which punishes such conduct with imprisonment of up to 3 years or 7 million naira. Furthermore, Section 37 of the Constitution, SOPRA, guarantees the right to privacy of every citizen or resident within the territory of Nigeria. She has a potential civil cause of action for this. Conclusion. This highlights a chain of events where the passenger's initial refusal to comply with a lawful order escalated into a series of criminal offenses. While the passenger's rights were potentially breached, particularly her right to dignity, these breaches occurred in the context of her own escalation and criminal behavior. Passenger's offense, refusal to comply with lawful order, unruly behavior, willful damage to the property, and assault of law enforcement officer. Breaches of right. The most significant breach was a right to dignity due to tearing her clothes. The legality of her detention and the force used would be examined in court, but the passenger's action would likely justify the action taken by the authorities.